Namaste, sir. Uh, sir, my name is NC Sahit. I'm from Hyderabad. There has been a spurge of energy in the country regarding the revival of Indian culture. Let me call it as Bharatiya Sanskriti. So, this Sanskriti is nothing without Sanskrit. But the elimination of Sanskrit, which was not even possible by the foreign invaders, which we have done in the name of modernity and advancement, seems irrevocable. Today, even the mother languages are at threat. So, how will Sanskrit come back? How will India come back? Is it inevitable that we, with our ignorance and mental slavery to the West, lose such a great scientific language like Sanskrit, the great literary, spiritual, scientific heritage of India? Is it not possible before I die that I see a few youngsters here at IIT Kharagpur discussing some science in Sanskrit? Thank you, sir.
So there is a slight problem with the framing of the question. Sanskrit will live. The question is whether it will live in Bharat. Okay. Sanskrit will live because the global thief has understood the value of Sanskrit long ago. He has set up chairs in all these Western institutions precisely for this, to start the process of co-option, to start the process of adoption, to effectively what I would call baptism, which is to take it away gradually. That process is long started. Aryan invasion theory that Sir spoke of is part of that entire philosophy. So you have to realize how this mind works. This mind is basically saying, if I find something of value in your culture, which is capable of universal application, I will first take away your right to lay claim on it. And therefore, its pitrutva, its paternity will be mine. Says the father of intellectual property principles. Right? Attribution, जो हमें सिखाने के लिए आते हैं, this is how they go about it. Why is that? Nothing of value should ever be traceable to your culture. Right? And even if it does, you should not have the right to claim it as your own. Hence the process of secularization of arts, the process of secularization of Bharatiya traditions, whatnot. That's exactly how it works. So don't be worried for the existence of Sanskrit. It will live. It is Deva Bhasha, it can't die. Whether it will live in the land of Devas is the question. And therefore, as a realist optimist, a question coming from a student of IIT Kharagpur such as this would have been impossible and unimaginable perhaps a decade ago. Right? I couldn't have left this room without let's say, a slew of allegations against me given my answers. Nobody would have dared to publish my books. Okay? That means the window has shifted. Now that window has shifted to two things. Shraddhanjali to all those people who died unheard after doing their best. Over the last 70 years, they were not fighting an outsider, they were fighting an insider-outsider. So our first job as dharmics is to recognize the contributions of the greats of the past. And then count your blessings that you're fortunate to live in that particular window of history where you can see this transition happening, which is why I'm so excited that this is going to be the battleground generation. We are at a crossroads. So you're looking at literally this is Arya Parkiladai. If this 25-year window from now onwards, effectively I would say 2019, I wouldn't even say 2014, 2019 onwards, roughly by 2047, if Bharat regains its ability to confidently assert its roots and which doesn't translate to exclusion of any kind, but a firm, confident assertion of the self, I think the job is done for the better part of it. So I am very confident of one thing, that the right questions are being asked. There is hunger for the right kind of content, operative word being right. And therefore, I am not someone who's pessimistic about the future. That said, I understand the lay of the land in terms of the challenges ahead. It must come to a point that when you're dealing with a pandemic, you don't force Ayurvedic practitioners and their diagnosis to be sent to an allopathic practitioner for a second opinion. The day you have the confidence that even during a pandemic, your indigenous medicine systems are capable of doing the job, as opposed to treating them as the stepney, that day I would say is when Bharat has truly arrived. Because until then it is only symbolism. Until then it's only symbolism. You will talk about history, you'll talk about temples, important, absolutely important, no problem. But when it comes to practical application of it in a way where it affects economics, where it affects health, do you have the confidence to walk the talk and the courage of your conviction that this will see us through? China had the confidence to do that with respect to Chinese medicine systems after having exported that beautiful virus to the rest of the world. Bharat did not have the confidence. It was a fantastic opportunity to mainstream Ayush. Ayurveda should have been at the forefront of it. I spoke to quite a few practitioners around that particular period. They were like, I am a second grade practitioner in this country where my prescription will now go to an allopathic practitioner for vetting. Would that be acceptable to any other stream of profession? I don't think so. That's exactly where the challenge is. So don't look at it only from the perspective of language. I would say language is important, but even when it comes to downright application related issues, do you have the confidence? I would say we are still not there. We are going in that particular direction. I genuinely hope that IKS gradually starts not just producing literature from an archival perspective, which is important because that's where we are at this point to understand what existed. But then it translates to very serious application of those knowledge systems and those thought processes and modes of sensing and understanding to contemporary problems. How do you apply that logic to policy making from the perspective of sustainable development? How do you apply that from the perspective of this growth-based market development? Can Bharat sustain this beyond a point? These are questions which I'm sorry to say Western models do not have the answer to. Because they are not based on contentment, they are based on perpetual growth. And they are based on rampant consumption. And in the process, it will leave this particular, let's say this planet, completely sucked dry of its resources, incapable of existence after a point. Then we'll all have to look to Elon Musk to give us the next vehicle to go to Mars. Which I don't think is a very responsible thing to do. So, I am saying your micro question and the macro issue are related. So, I think maybe in the next 5 or 6 years, people like me, our work may become obsolete. Because then the discussion would have moved from the politics of the issue to the issue itself. Which is what is the necessity. At this point, we are gatekeepers, we are Dwarapalas, trying to protect the people who are doing their jobs. The hope is when the people doing their jobs get center stage and our jobs are done, over. The purpose of existence is complete, over.